I'm really excited to show off this project today. It's day 2. Some of you might know of MERMAID, which is the month of May, where you do a mermaid project every day. So I'm also really excited to show you my new paints from Arteza. Theirs are the warm colors, and these are the cool colors in a pack of 12 that this company just sent to me to try out in my mixed media project. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. Oh, look, you get you get 2 views of that. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm working in my altered book today, and I only have like 2 more pages. So super psyched to work in that today. So I am working, that was phthalo blue and green and another tone of green there and some white. I was really happy with the paint, to be honest. The first thing I noticed when I started mixing it together was, this is gonna sound really weird, but the smell, actually, the smell is really yummy. That's so random, and it wasn't even something I would ever expect to be commenting on, but seriously, if they were going for a smell, nailed it. It smelled really, really good. So it comes with, you get these 2 shades of green, which I mixed together with one of the blues. There's 2 blues, an ultramarine and the phthalo blue, and I was mixing together on my plate there to create this background, watery background for my mermaid, for day 2 of mermaid. And you know, those were the 3 colors in a row as they came packaged, and they obviously go together seamlessly, so I'm super happy about that. It had good coverage. I really liked, it's definitely a fluid, and it dries to not quite matte, not like a chalky matte like some ceram coats. It was almost had like a slight sheen to it. It was actually kind of the perfect amount of sheen. It wasn't glossy, but it wasn't matte either, so it was right in the middle. And I was very happy with them. I like the tubes are made out of metal, and they're not like a cheap plastic. I only honestly wish they were bigger because I'm ready to use more. That was a dollar store napkin I got a long time ago, and using it as the backdrop for this. I didn't really know where exactly I was going with this project, but I thought, well, if we're gonna have mermaid, we're gonna have to have some fish in there, so obviously that was kind of a no-brainer. I don't know how the heck I'm gonna come up with 29 more mermaid projects. I feel like after today and yesterday, like I'm good. Oy, it's only day 2. Wish me luck. Anyways, this is matte medium that I'm using to glue down my napkin. I had to take the back off first. It's 2-ply, so you need to remove the back in order to just get that single front side going. And it's also then cool because it becomes more transparent. So my hope was that it would kind of seep into the background that I had already painted, and it kind of did. I ended up stamping a little bit over top afterwards to kind of tie them all together. But yeah, if you've never used a dollar store napkin to art with, I highly recommend it. Do it all the time. It works wonders. So then I grabbed my Stabilo All, favorite writing instrument of all time. Oh, Rosie. You all know Rosie, I'm sure. So I did use a reference from from one of the girls in Loish's book. I will link to that in the description box, along with the supplies that I'm using today. The dollar store napkins, unfortunately I don't have a link for them, but I'm sure if you go scavenging around, Tuesday Morning has good napkins, Home Goods has good napkins, Target has awesome tissue paper, so I usually just, if I'm out and about, will just grab whatever. That is duct tape actually across the middle that I used. I got decorative duct tape. I kind of just ignored it, to be honest. I didn't love it, didn't hate it. I needed it to repair this. This book is quite old, and I've arted the crap out of all of its pages, so it really needed some reinforcement. So that's just duct tape, and I just kind of pretended it's not there, to be honest. So yeah, the top half of the girl is based loosely on one of Loish's girls. If you don't know her, she's a phenomenal digital artist. She does traditional materials as well, but I kind of borrowed the top half of her and then as reference, and then obviously her girl's actually holding like ivy or greens and not an eel, but it worked for me. So I'm using the ochre and the burnt umber and the white to make a skin tone. Now this is a big for me actually, Arteza, I will have you know, because I don't mix skin tones ever because I'm the laziest human on the planet and I'm completely comfortable with that fact. So this was kind of a big deal. I was like, here goes nothing. And guess what? This is actually just the ochre and the white together made like the perfect skin tone. So that's good to know. That's all you have to do. I was kind of prepared to like shoot some blue in there to make a nice neutral, and I didn't really have to. I added a little bit of the burnt umber just to get like shadow behind the arm there. It's like a different shade of skin because it's gonna be in shade because the arm is in front of it, so that's why I did that. But yeah, it was actually surprisingly really easy to mix. I suck at hands, I'm really sorry, just don't even look at that. Panning up to the head where I feel much more comfortable arting. So I'm just kind of carefully going along the Stabilo lines. If you hit your paint with a Stabilo, it will activate, which means it kind of turns into watercolor, but I'm okay. I usually, if I activate it by hitting the paint, I just use it to add some additional shading into my projects, and I super don't worry about it, so you shouldn't either. But just know that it will melt if you apply any sort of liquid. That could be paint, it could be matte medium, it could be Mod Podge, as you guys know. And you'll see, if you don't know, that's like my favorite. One of my favorite steps is sealing my whole page with Mod Podge, and then everything else will be activated. So as you just saw, I'm using the phthalo blue for her tail. I actually use every single color in this whole project except there's like a red and an orange, and I didn't get around to using those because I was thinking about it and I was like, how can I want to say that I used every single color, but I did use 10 out of the 12 for this project, so I thought that was pretty good. And based on how these ones performed, there's no reason to think that those colors wouldn't perform just as well. I mean, it just goes on super smooth. It is kind of the perfect consistency. It sort of reminds me of like a Liquitex Basic, just in terms of consistency, but I did felt like this was like a little bit creamier. They're just nice. They're kind of glossier on my plate than I feel like. I don't know. I just like it. They have a nice texture to them. And a really good smell. So weird, I know. You know what else has a good smell? Is Mod Podge Gloss. Has like a really fantastically different smell than the matte one. I know, it's so weird, but also yummy. I used to teach kids and they used to tell me that every time I poured it out that they told me it smelled like ranch dressing, which I think is really weird and not accurate, but just a little piece of information that you can feel free to now forget because it's totally useless. But anyways, coloring in her hair, excuse me, with the darkest shade of brown. I think that is the burnt umber, and her skin colors to kind of tie them all together. And it also matched the fish. That fish on the top of her head is the same color as her hair, which kind of proved to be a problem, but I knocked it out of there with some gesso a little bit later, you'll see. Just adjusting her arm, going back to the skin colors are still wet on my palette, so that was really easy to fix. So yeah, I had the phthalo blue is the dark blue, and then marine blue is a really pretty blue. You'll see me a little bit later adding that on top of her tail to give it like some additional dimension. I'm kind of in love with the greens though. The green and the blues together were just delicious. If you mix them together, you get a really beautiful teal. So I'm using those two to stamp around my edges, kind of tie in the napkin. Look how well that napkin works. I'm still so happy about that. It's just the funniest little things, you know. I don't have time. I'm not going to go be painting fish all day. No way. I would if I didn't have 3 kids that I have to go pick up in like 20 minutes, but my life is, it is what it is. I don't have time to paint fish. So boom, there on my napkin, good to go. So her tummy could be a little bit bigger. She was like emaciated. And I did actually get a lot of people private messaging me about that last mermaid that I did. Who were not happy with how skinny she was, which I get. She was really skinny, but you know, she's actually not real So there's that. So please take my paintings with a grain of salt. If I draw a mermaid, know that I'm not advocating for emaciated people. It's just I'm just painting a mermaid and having a really fun day. So please don't take that away from me. So yeah, she had to be holding something. Actually, I didn't know what she was going to be holding until I was like, maybe an eel. Yeah, just kind of, that's sort of my process for all things, even in life. Dinner, per se, I usually figure that out at about 4:59 when my kids are screaming at me to eat. That's when I figure it out. That's the same way in my paintings. I like to jump in with 2 feet and figure it out as I go. And kind of, you know, think less, paint more. That's my real mantra. So I finally got to use some black. It was nice and opaque, went on beautifully well. You know, and it's nice too because it's so rich and creamy and I don't have to use like any water or anything with my brushes. It was just straight up. Now this brush is an old brush I had kicking around in my garage. It's that marine blue that I stamped those. I accidentally let paint dry on those bristles, oil-based paint, and so it ruined it forever. Or did it? Because now I'm using it as a stamper just to create some kind of texture in her tail. I didn't feel like drawing scales. I was like, ain't nobody got time to draw scales. So this gives it at least some texture. And then I added some white to kind of, you know, give some highlights to her quote-unquote scales. All right, I did have to bust out my gesso. This is nothing to do with the paint. I actually always use gesso in all of my products at some point or another. I usually actually start out all my journal pages with gesso, and today I really am short on time, so I just dove right in with a paint, and it's actually fine. But in this project, I really felt like she needed to pop more. Like the eel is almost the same color as the background, and that wasn't really fair to my little eely guy, and so I just thought of making this aura. That would have been a heck of a lot easier to do had I started with the white in the center and kind of had fanned out to the darker edges, but I did it backwards today because sometimes sometimes that's just the way it works. And yeah, it's annoying and not as easy as if you do the light part first, but it's all good. We worked it out, just stamped it around. I have all these different stamps, and you know what's cool about, or sponges I should say, is that if you just keep washing them, you can actually use them for years and years and years. I haven't replaced a foam brush or a sponge in 10 years, and I just keep reusing the same ones over and over. Just chuck them in your water when you're all finished, and just when you get to it, you can wash them out when you're good to go. I love gesso because it, you know, it's transparent if you put it on light enough. So I just dabbed like once on my sponge, and then I stamped like all day long with that same amount of gesso on my sponge. So it's pretty easy to use. Again, I wanted to tie the background in and kind of really make her match her background environment and kind of bring some cohesiveness to the piece. So I added that same blue that's in her tail around the edges. And then again, I'm spreading out the gesso. So it helps tie the background to the foreground, foreground to the background into one cohesive piece. Tucking that gesso in, and she's still very much unfinished because I haven't gotten out my pens yet. I am a tried and true mixed media artist. I have a really hard time just not using every single tool in my toolbox. So while I do use acrylics, I almost all the time, when I'm not drawing anyways, I have to kind of reach for all my different tools at the same time. So this is matte Mod Podge, and I have to say that correctly because I know a lot of people get really pissed if I say Mod Podge, if I say it really quickly and it comes out like that. People get really angry at me. It's kind of funny. It's like the emaciated mermaid. Like, guys, I'm doing my best, okay? I'm doing my best. But I appreciate the feedback, and I promise I will do my best to enunciate the mod in the podge. Mod Podge. So I had to dry her real quick with my hair dryer, and then, you know, it's my favorite part. You gotta bust out the Pitt Pens, because that Mod Podge, which is matte, it just leaves like a little bit of a gloss on the surface. Kind of shaving her forehead down there with my Pitt pen in white. These are the big brush Pitt pens. They're my absolute favorite. I actually went to Jerry's Artarama like recently and I bought like a billion more, and I already thought I had them all, but now I have more. So I have like the skin pack. I think I actually picked those up at Barnes & Noble, which is really random, but check your Barnes & Noble. They do have those little skinny skin packs they have. And they sell the black ones at like AC Moore in a pack of a lot of different nibs. That's a Copic multi-liner, but those work well too. At this point, like any permanent marker you can use on top of that slick surface. And there's like a little window of wetness where when you put them on, you can see it's shiny. You can actually use your finger and like blend that or spread that. You can see me doing it over and over with my fingers. And you can blend the colors together, and it's just like a whole nother layer of shading and dimension onto your pieces. And this satisfies my inner drawer illustrator. So I love this kind of work because I love to paint, I love to draw, and this way I get to do both in the same projects. So yeah, this is one of my new kind of burnt orange color Pitt pens, and as you can see, it goes down really wet, and then it will dry and it will become permanent. And then actually off camera, when I'm all done, I will pour more Mod Podge over this again, and almost all my pieces get 2 layers. Don't bore you with that. And then I always spray an acrylic sealer on top, and that way my journal pages don't get stuck together. And they really don't. I haven't had any problems. I've sent these off to Stamping Tin & Company for publication. They send them back to me like 2 years later, and my pages are still not sticking together. So that my favorite spray, and I will link that. So you guys can just see what I use. And so I'm just outlining her. Again, this is something that you could do with a paintbrush, but I really am like a super not detail person. So, and I do love to draw, so I just don't worry about it. I just toss my paints to the side when I'm done, and I just carry on with my markers, and I don't think twice about it. Giving her some last minute highlights. She's almost finished. Yep, just going over the piece. Sometimes I outline everything, sometimes I don't, and just whatever I kind of think works to fill it together. And that just makes me happy. I love the white. Pitt pen is very opaque as well, so it's almost as good as a water-based Sharpie or a Posca pen. It's pretty darn close. And you can use Posca pens for this whole step too, by the way, which I also love. It's really bothering me that, well, her hand, don't even get me started on hands. If you've taken my fashion illustration course at Awesome Art School, you'll know what a disaster I am in hands. But it was really bothering me that she was completely one-armed, so I snuck a little arm back there. So at least she now has 2. And that's all you need, is a little indication. And then look at that. 2 lines and boom, she has 2 arms. Oh, I feel better. And I want to just like have some individual strands. Her hair was kind of, I thought it was done, and I looked at her, I'm like, oh, her hair's driving me nuts. It was very blocky. So I wanted to make sure I had some loose strands kind of flowing in the water. And there she is. I am super pleased with how she turned out, I'm not gonna lie. The fish in the background, the paints were a joy to work with. They were absolutely lovely. I love the color selections that they had. I can't think of anything bad to say about them. I really can't. And they smelled awesome. So what more do you want? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you for Mermaid Day 3 tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.